Hey guys, for today's video I wanted to focus on Eurorack sequencers and different ways to use them besides just sending pitch information to various oscillators that you have in a Eurorack system. For this video I chose the Z8000 TipTop audio sequencer for a few different reasons. One, it is one of the more affordable sequencers I would say out there in the Eurorack market. Two, it'll accept multiple clock sources from different sources, meaning that you can have multiple sequences running and then send the control voltages from multiple sequences to a variety of places, which is pretty cool. And three, it's one of the sequencers that I have in my system that I tend to use more for CV modulation than controlling pitch information if I'm trying to build melodies. So I have a couple of examples to demonstrate these concepts for you and different ways to use sequencers today. But before I show you those, a quick little message from our sponsor.
Are you tired of struggling to write music with regular equipment? Try credit card debt. With the help of a website like Modular Grid, you can plot out a system that in your wildest dreams you could never afford. But thanks to a plethora of companies offering long financing rates on credit cards, you too can get that system built and ready to go right now. However, I have to warn you, if your music sucked before, it probably will continue to suck.
Great! Alright, so for the examples that I'm going to show you guys here today, I'm going to be focusing here on the Z8000 sequencer that I have from TipTop Audio. This one's kind of an interesting sequencer because it allows, or it accepts a lot of variation in clock signals throughout the module. For this demonstration, I'm just focusing on two different clock signals that utilize all 16 steps of the sequencer. So there is a sequence that is running faster currently horizontally, and then you can also see this value here that is going vertically, which it's probably hard to focus on just because of the horizontal sequence, but there's two different clock sources going into that, and I can use control voltage from both of those sequences to modulate different parameters. So just as a basic concept, I have a sequence set up with the Z-DSP oscillator from Noise Engineering as a sound source, and I'm modulating the pitch of this sequence with my Varigate 8 sequencer. So the melody that I have set up is kind of basic, but it sounds like this. Okay, and so if I run that, or if I take this channel and I have it plugged into the low pass filter that's built into the Z-DSP, I can start changing the values of these 16 knobs and start getting some really interesting modulation out of that low pass filter. Okay, so it gives that basic sequence a little bit more character just from doing that. And you can do this with LFOs, you can do it with envelopes. One of the cool things I think about using a sequencer for modulation in this sense is I've got 16 steps that are, you know, you have a little bit more control over it. Whereas if you use an LFO to do a low pass filter cutoff, you're just going to kind of get a sweep that essentially kind of goes up and down. Or depending on envelope modules that you have, you may not be able to get quite as creative and control each steps how you want something to sound. Now you could do effectively the same thing as an LFO does by just kind of slowly increasing these values along the way, and then decreasing them back down. So that's more of what an LFO would give you just from running in a modulation source like that, but it is cool, I think, that you can get a little bit wilder with these and create a sequence that really has kind of sporadic variation in filter cutoffs, just in this example. Now, I've got a second channel here, which for this example, I'll just throw it into the envelope modulation source on the Z8000. And now it's going to use the same CV values based on those 16 knobs to also control the envelope, basically like the sustain or decay of this oscillator as well. Or the other option too is you could take a second sequencer and have a separate sequence that doesn't follow the same values as the filter cutoff, and then you'd probably get even a little bit more creative with it. But the reason why I'm doing this is because I have a different clock running for the envelope, so they're not hitting the same knob at the same time, and this will kind of vary as the sequence goes on for a long period of time without really giving you the same exact structure. Okay, so for the second example, I set up a drum rhythm to which I have the hi-hats being modulated by one channel on the Z8000 here. These are controlling envelopes in the Z-DSP. So one of those is going to the hi-hats and controlling reverbs through the Z-DSP on the hi-hats. And then the second channel is controlling an envelope on a melody, modulating that envelope parameter in the Z-DSP for this melody setup with the braids. So it's a little bit more complex, but you should be able to kind of hear the modulation on this hi-hat sample if I mute the snare here. So there's a channel on the Z-DSP here on the second channel that's just kind of modulating the decay, the dry and wet, and then I also have some random on the Z-DSP just triggering different delay sounds, all being controlled by this Z8000 patch setup. So let's bring it all back in here real quick. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in again this week. As always, I appreciate all the support that you guys have given me so far. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and want to see some more content like this. Like or dislike the video, and typical links down below. Don't forget to check out some of my music on Spotify, Apple Music, all the various places. So I will see you guys in the next video.